My name is Lauren. I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer a week before my 22nd birthday. I'm 23 now, so this was not that long ago.
A lot of people listening to this or watching will be surprised to hear that cancer diagnoses are going up in younger people. Which cancers are they in particular? If you found a weird lump or you were feeling constantly tired or had some other symptoms that you couldn't explain, would you think it might be cancer? Now, most young people wouldn't, because we tend to think that cancer is something that generally affects older people. But doctors are warning that some cancers are now becoming more common in people in their 20s and 30s too.
I completed chemotherapy, I had a double mastectomy, and did radiation within around 8 months. And now I'm cancer-free, I'm healthy, I'm back to finishing my final year of university, and I'm in this post-cancer transition period and battling all of the things that come with that, along with just being a young adult.
That is Lauren, and you're going to hear more from her later. But we're going to break this down now with the BBC's health and science correspondent, James Gallagher. Hi, welcome back. Hello.
Thank you.
So we're going to start kind of with the real basics here. What is cancer? What does it do to the body?
Well, cancer is a bit of your body that's basically gone wrong. So it tends to start with a single cell in your body and think you're made up of billions of cells. One of them mutates, goes out of control and just starts growing unstoppably, dividing, mutating more and more. And that grows often into something called a tumour, which is when you might notice a lump somewhere in your body. And as that progresses, it starts to spread around the body. Now, if you treat them early, many cancers aren't fatal, but if they aren't treated, then they can spread around the body. They disrupt all of your body's systems and become fatal.
Yeah, and a lot of people listening to this or watching will be surprised to hear that cancer diagnoses are going up in younger people. Which cancers are they in particular?
So it's a whole range of cancers. So there's a list of 11 cancers, and some of them are the more common ones. So things like breast cancer and bowel cancer would be two of the big, most common ones, but also some more quite rare cancers, things like pancreatic cancer, gallbladder cancer, mouth cancers.
How worried should people be? How common is it for young people to get cancer diagnoses?
It's still incredibly rare, and the biggest risk factor for cancer is still how old you are. So if you wanted to be in a room full of 100 people and go, well, who's at most risk of cancer in this room, the simplest thing you could do is just order them by birthday, and that would get you pretty much there. So there is a little increased risk of cancer in early childhood. So there are specific childhood cancers, but then the risk is very low normally in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and then it starts picking up into your 50s, 60s, and really accelerates as you get older.
So why is it, firstly, that cancer affects older people more than younger people? And then why do doctors think that we're seeing more cases now in younger people too?
Okay, so if we start with the older people bit, it's just that the older you are, the more damage you accumulate in your body over time. So inside every cell of our body is a copy of our genetic code, our DNA, the blueprint for making the whole of the human body. And over time, that just gets errors in it. It becomes like buggy computer code over time.
Right.
And eventually that can become cancerous. Why things are changing in younger people? Well, the honest answer is we don't really know the complete picture of this yet. So there have been studies, because we've seen this pattern happening in lots of countries around the world. The latest research was in England, and what that showed was that they looked at lots of different patterns of human behavior. So we know smoking's linked to cancer, we know poor diet's linked to cancer, we know that not exercising is linked to cancer, how much alcohol you drink is linked to cancer. So what do we do if we compare patterns of all of those behaviors with the rise in cancers in young people over time? And it was not explained by any of those things that I mentioned. The only thing that seemed to rise roughly in line with the increase in cancers was obesity. But that only explained a tiny fraction of those extra cancers we're now seeing. So a little bit of it is obesity. Most of the puzzle is still unexplainable.
Not all cancers are caused by these lifestyle choices, though, are they?
They're not. Some of them are just really bad luck or the product of living for a very long period of time. And eventually that's just what happens inside our bodies. Some people, they'll have seen it happen to their families, that they are born at a higher genetic risk. So it's quite common for things like breast cancer to run in families where it hits every single generation of women in that family. The thing is, it's very hard to ever know for certain what caused any one individual person's cancer. So I know we've said things like 40% of cancers could be preventable. Like, what you don't want to take from that is to ever blame somebody that they are the reason that they have cancer. I think that's often quite unfair.
And we know that in lots of different countries, people aren't even screened for cancers until they're a little bit older. And we're going to hear more from Lauren now about her experience of that.
My diagnosis was a shock to myself, my family, my friends, and the doctors that I met with, because I don't fit the expectation of what breast cancer looks like. And we normally associate it with older women. I've heard so many stories, unfortunately, of young women who have been turned away from doctors who've told them they don't need a scan because they're too young and that it's likely benign, it's likely a cyst, and the tumor progresses and they end up being diagnosed at a later stage compared to if they had been diagnosed when they first approached a doctor. Because of this, you need to advocate, and it can be uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, it's your health, it's your body. You need to prioritize that. So if someone doesn't give you what you were expecting to hear, it's okay to get a second opinion. If you feel like something's off, you need to trust your gut.
So, James, is there an issue here with people, with ourselves, but also with doctors missing potential cancer diagnoses because they're not looking for it in younger people?
Yes, and for good reason, because cancer is incredibly rare in young people. And if you come in to a doctor's surgery with an array of symptoms, there are likely to be other things that could be causing them if you're 20 before you get to cancer, whereas it might be further up your list of things you'd be worried about if you were 75. And this comes up time and time and time again. The battle, the fight to actually get recognised and to get a diagnosis, because they knew there was something more deeply and fundamentally wrong. The number of times something like bowel cancer is initially dismissed as, oh, it's inflammatory bowel disease or something like that instead. And actually it takes quite a lot of work and effort to get that cancer diagnosis. It's definitely a pattern.
Yeah, it can be really hard to advocate for yourself, especially if you're going through something like that. And we also have better cancer treatments than ever. I mean, you said that so many people are surviving after getting diagnosed with certain types of cancer. Can you talk me through how the main cancer treatments work?
Yeah, so I always used to think there were like the three pillars of cancer. So there's surgery to literally cut it out of the body. There's radiotherapy, where you blast the tumor with radiation to try to destroy those cancerous cells. And then chemotherapy, which are really toxic drugs, which basically kill any cells that are actively dividing and growing inside the body. So they come with quite potent side effects. You're trying to get that very narrow gap in between killing the cancer and not killing the rest of the body. So those are the ones we've had for quite some time. Two newer ones, the two new pillars of cancer medicine. One of them is immunotherapy, and this is a really interesting one. It's harnessing the power of your own body's immune system to seek out and attack that cancer, because as part of cancer's evolution within our own bodies, it learns ways of shutting down the immune system. So this is a way of turning it back on, and that's proved to be really potent. And the other one is highly precision medicine. So this new technique of genetically analyzing the genetic code of your particular tumor and then matching specific drugs that target the specific weaknesses in that tumor. So those are the five main ones.
And it is fascinating, isn't it, how far science has come to be able to have all of those treatments at a time when cancer rates are on the rise. And James, if people are watching or listening to this and they have concerns or they feel that they might have a symptom that they want to get checked out, what should they do and when should they be going for medical help?
The really difficult thing is that you don't know you have cancer. You just know that you've got something that's different or going wrong in your body. So some of the biggest ones to be alert to are, do you have a lump that has suddenly appeared and isn't going away? Do you have persistent fatigue? Are you suddenly dramatically losing weight? Those are things you should be going to speak to your doctor about. At that point, you don't know whether it's cancer or if there is another explanation. But those are kind of big warning signs that something isn't quite right in your body and you should be seeking medical advice. When you think things aren't quite right or they're different, and not being afraid to go to your doctor and say, this is happening to me, help.
And a lot of these symptoms might seem like they could be another disease or another health condition at first. And we've talked before, actually, you and I, about the dangers of typing your symptoms into an AI tool or even into Google, a search engine, and seeing what results are brought up and how that can contribute to scaremongering as well. So how can people manage that?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're always going to want to speak to the person that has studied medicine for years in order to try to get the best diagnosis. Because if you attempt to do it by yourself, you will do one of two things. You'll convince yourself that you don't have cancer, or you'll convince yourself that you do when you've got something really minor. And it's kind of like what you want to do is to go in there saying, this is happening to me, and then to work through the explanation with somebody that knows what to look out for.
James, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And now we're going to hear more from Lauren about her journey with cancer.
If you are someone who has been diagnosed with cancer, if you're similar to my age and you're a young adult, I've learned a lot throughout this journey, and here are 3 things that I would like to pass along to you. Number 1, you got to keep doing the things that you love and the things that make you happy. It's a scary and unstable time in your life, and having those constant things that you've always enjoyed doing and that make you feel like yourself, it's so important to keep that going throughout treatment. Even if you can't do it to your full capacity, there's nothing wrong with that. Number 2, accept help. Ask for help. Let people in. I'm a very independent person and I don't like asking for help, but this was a good challenge to receive it and really gain a new appreciation for the people around me. They were incredible, and I had such an amazing support system that lifted me up throughout my treatment journey. Number 3, kind of the opposite of that last one, but you need to be your number 1 fan. You're the one lifting yourself up every single day, and you are the one fighting. So you need to give yourself a little bit of love for that, because in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you're going to be looking back on all of the strength and perspectives that you've gained, and you did that. So give yourself a really big hug on those hard days, because you're killing it, you're fighting, and you're going to get through this.
It's so touching to hear Lauren's story, especially when so many of us know someone who has had cancer. And if you have got thoughts or comments on this story or any other story, please do get in touch. You can leave us a comment below. We are on WhatsApp and we're also on Instagram at BBC What in the World. And I want to read out some of the comments we got on our episode on rejection therapy. If you don't know what that is, go and have a watch. It's the idea of deliberately putting yourself out there in situations where you might be rejected, so that you can get used to it and not fear it quite so much. And I even tried it out myself. I did my own little experiments, and it was amazing how nice and friendly people were to me. So one of the comments was basically just that. People are so kind and nice. I appreciate your trying, Hannah. This is a really interesting topic. I love it. And then this is from Anne-Marie, who said that in South Africa, where I live, we talk and greet strangers a lot. It's 99% fun and friendly interactions. When I see fear or surprise in people's faces when I talk to them, it's most often tourists or foreigners who aren't used to our friendly approach to each other. And there definitely is a cultural element to this. It isn't normal to approach people like I did in the middle of London, but I'm really glad to hear that South Africans are so much friendlier. Well, that's it from me. I'm Hannah. This is What in the World from the BBC World Service, and we'll see you next time.